Welcome to Gone Phishing, a show diving into the cybersecurity threats that surround our highly connected lives. Every human is different. Every person has unique vulnerabilities that expose them to potentially successful social engineering. On this show, we'll discuss human vulnerability and how it relates to unique individuals. I'm Connor Swalm, CEO of FinSecurity, and welcome to Gone Phishing. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Gone Phishing. I'm your host, Connor, CEO at Fin, and I am joined once again by the wonderful Gregory Raymond Orsini III. That's his full name.
My first name is Raymond, right?
I thought it was Gregory Raymond. It's Raymond Gregory?
That's my middle name. No, Raymond Gregory.
I didn't know that.
I shouldn't dox myself. That's probably stupid. You probably gave me the best OPSEC possible, and I completely butchered it. Talk about fatigue, man.
Talk about fatigue. Ray is the CEO of OIT, and he is also the CEO of MSP Media Network, MMN. How are you doing, Ray?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Drinking from my MMN branded mug, so I'm good.
Great product placement. I wonder how much MMN paid for that.
Oh, not enough. Not enough.
Not enough.
Got my MMN hat, my Tech Bar shirt, so completely geared out today.
For folks that, if this is your first episode or you haven't watched me and Ray discuss some other stuff in the previous episode, Ray's been in and out of the MSP industry for longer than I've been alive. I'm 27, so I'm just willing to make that statement, I guess.
That's accurate.
He knows a thing or two, not only about MSPs. He was one, he founded one, but also on the vendor side. So he has this unique perspective of what are the problems we're facing together as an industry and how can we sit on both sides of the fence and understand what the other side's going through. So question for you, Ray. Vendor fatigue, whether that means working with a single vendor, having fatigue, or that means working with way too many vendors. Is vendor fatigue real for MSPs? And how would you define it?
100%. So Jay McBain did a study, and if you don't follow Jay McBain, please go follow him. It's ridiculous amount of information he puts out. But Jay McBain, when he was at Forrester, put out a report saying the average MSP has 17 tools. Every MSP I talk to says that's grossly under what they actually use. And it's funny because if you look back, 3-4 years ago, every vendor was touting how they're going to get to that single pane of glass. And I think we've learned since that was short-sighted. Now it's less about single pane of glass and more about having the data wherever you're working. So integrations, API become much more important. But yeah, even now it's a constant battle. OIT is a 12-year-old company. We have a ridiculous amount of tools we use, and we're always we used to try to consolidate, and that's still the priority wherever we can, but it's more about building that automation between them. So it doesn't matter if I'm in Salesforce or HubSpot or Zapier or whatever else. The data is where I need it to be.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you believe, a question I've always been wondering, do you believe that was created in response to these enormous MSP-focused platforms, promising that pane of glass, working towards it, whatever you'd like to say about that? So there's really two options.
I think, so DattoCon, I just came back from DattoCon. You had Kaseya's major event. Kaseya probably has the stronghold in the MSP space on the most number of companies they've purchased in the MSP space. So if you want to talk about, every vendor has worked toward that. So Acronis is building their PSA RMM platform. Ninja expanded their RMM to have a PSA Lite thing in there. Synchro, same thing. ConnectWise absolutely has multiple PSAs in RMMs at this point. I'm sorry, single PSA, but multiple RMMs. So they all have this, and I think they all wanted to get there. But that was a direct. I think vendors realized at some point that merger and acquisition originally was planned so that you can roll it all up into a single pane of glass, single platform. I think they realized at some point that is an insurmountable problem. As much as I give Josh gruff for it's super easy TM, building stuff out, having purchased other companies. I know even when it's all the same stuff, it's hard. So I think somewhere in the past couple of years, these vendors reposition themselves into saying, we're not going to own the single pane of glass. We're going to own the ecosystem. And Kaseya is a perfect example of that. ConnectWise is a perfect example of that, where they're buying a lot of tools in the same space. And then instead of trying to make a single pane of glass, they're trying to integrate them all. So you can have meaningful data exchange between them. Because I think everybody at this point is resigned to there's never going to be a single pane of glass unless you build it. And that's not scalable for MSPs. We need commercial off-the-shelf solutions that'll work with other stuff. So I think that's where we're going. I think that's a better play.
I feel like you could even take some knowledge from the enterprise place and say, in the enterprise world, are there companies, software vendors that work with enterprises that do have single panes of glass? And you'd have to go so far as to say, like, ServiceNow and SAP, which are some of the largest companies in the world. And even they don't have everything in the exact single pane of glass they'd like, but they're probably the closest. So
they are. And I think that's, we talked in the last episode about how MSPs are 10 to 15 years behind enterprise. I do think that's where the paths diverge a little bit. And enterprise can afford to build their custom tooling because it's affecting 10, 20, 50,000 users, but it's just their environment. Yeah. So it's a lot more homogenous, right? MSPs, what are you going to do? I mean, even if you cater just to dental and, assuming your therapy bill isn't so high that you can't afford to live, or you focus on legal or focus on medical, whatever it happens to be, even with that, there's still a lot of different tooling that goes around, right? In dental, you have EagleSoft, and a bunch of other garbage. I don't remember anymore because I'm not in the space anymore. Even medical, you have imaging, you have remote host solutions, you have, whatever BS. This is harder to do. That single pane of glass is much more difficult, if not, I would argue, impossible in the MSP world because of how disparate we are and how varied we are in our environments. But with that said, I think we have more tools available. I think low code, no code services the MSP world better than it does enterprises because we're more adept at that and we're creative because we've had to be in our history.
Yeah, I think a statement that would accurately sum up MSP technicians is y'all are incredibly technically gifted, but you're not trained software developers on average. If you were, you'd go be a software developer. You wouldn't be a security and IT practitioner. It doesn't mean you're not capable of it. And that's where a tool like Bubble would come in and help you.
And that's where I would argue these low code, no code options are so much more important, right? Because they're the bumpers in that bowling alley. They're the guardrails to keep you safe. You're no longer building authentication. You're no longer building data security. You're just building connection and presentation. And those are generally safe places to be when it comes to data security. And then all the heavy lifting on the back end happens by that vendor, 888 or Treo, Workato, Zapier, Roost, Pia, whatever you're doing. It doesn't matter. Even Kaseya built out their own low code, no code thing. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It's just the idea is you don't have to be that developer. You don't have to hear me say, "Hey, it's easy, TM," because you have tools like Bubble that'll make it easier, Power Automate, or anything else.
Do you think there are way too many vendors that are coming into the space that view it as a cash cow, so to speak, or an efficient distribution model to small businesses? Are there too many of us?
So, of course, as a vendor, I want to say yes. But
for real,
and I see new vendors come in and I see MSPs like, oh, another solution, another as a service, right? I do think that there's a subset of vendors that are coming in that generally have the MSP's community at heart, the MSP community's heart at its core interest, right? So you came in, right? You came in with your team, your founders, and you said, look, we're going to build something specifically for MSP. We're going to learn about it. We're going to build it out. That's the right mindset. I'll argue for myself. I started as an MSP, grew into what I'm doing today, learning from the experience of the MSP. I still talk to MSPs every day. I couldn't do my job otherwise. I think those vendors, we can't get enough of them. Bring them in, let them try stuff out. They're definitely small enough where they can throw spaghetti at a wall, figure it out, keep going, right? In the enterprise world, we call that R&D. Realistically, we're just screwing around and finding out. Um, but I think the more of those, the better. I want them to disrupt the big players. I want them to come in and show, like SIP, right? Data RMM brought in portions of SIP, rewrote it for their own thing, or Autotasker for which component it can say it's in. Pretty sure it's Data RMM. And they built in SIP, right? They built in Microsoft 365 management. Why? Because SIP got to it faster. There's no reason multi-billion-dollar companies like Kaseya, ConnectWise, and the rest couldn't do this stuff. And I'm not admonishing them for not doing it, but I'm saying because we have these smaller vendors, and Kelvin's not a vendor, but because we have these smaller players that can be more nimble and can pivot much more quickly, we get these solutions we wouldn't have otherwise. Now, on the flip side of that, these enterprise vendors that come in and say, we have channel, we sell through the channel, and then try to sell through the MSP channel, which is a whole different animal. You guys can get the hell off my lawn. I don't need you guys in my space, because these guys come in and they have a half-ass attitude on how to do it. They think their enterprise, 24-week to 48-week sales processes are going to apply to MSP world, and they think their account management with their quarterly reviews and all this stuff is going to apply one-to-one with MSP world. And MSPs are very different. You talk to 5 MSPs, they're going to give you 5 different answers on how to do the same thing. Enterprise isn't that way. So those players, unless they're the ones that come in and want to learn about the MSP world, I could live without them, honestly.
I don't want to say make fun of, but I always laugh a little bit whenever I meet a lot of vendors that are attempting, and they're like, yeah, I want to get into the MSP. I want to get into the channel. I'm like, tell me about that. What do you think the channel is? And then they start mentioning like Laris and other large distributors. And it's like, okay, that's a channel.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is MSPs. And MSPs is different from VARs, resellers, MSSPs, and other service organizations. So it's like, of those 3, which one do you want to focus on? And then their answer becomes all 3. I'm like, stop right now. Choose one or choose none.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't get to all 3.
No, but it's no different than, if you're a large MSP like a UDT or Presidio, they cater to a lot of verticals, but they have teams built out just for the vertical.
Yep.
Like you need to be super, have a lot of resources to be able to do stuff like that. Because MSP absolutely deserves its own its own team that understands the space. And so I get the same thing. I serve as an advisor for multiple companies. I invest in multiple companies. I get paid to advise for, PEs and VCs talking about coming to the space and blah, blah. And more than half the times they're paying me to say, don't do it. Don't come into the space. You're the wrong vendor to come into the space. And more than often than not, they ignore me and come do it. And then a lot of them I've seen over the years just flame out, say, no, we're going to go back to enterprise because it's more money. We understand it better, blah, blah, blah. They go back to what they know, which is what they should be doing. Stick with what you know if you're not going to learn the new thing.
That is true. I see a lot of folks after 6 to 12 months of, hey, we were doing the channel and didn't see any fruit. It's like, you were here for a breath of air and then you were gone. It's people didn't even have time to know your name because they saw you once. That was it.
It always surprises me. I look at, I'll go to CRN, for example, or Channel Pro, and I'll look at all the vendors they have advertising. And like you, I go to a lot of events. I'm heavily involved in the community. There's not a lot of companies in the space that are major players in the space that I don't know. Right. Both either from a corporate perspective or that I know the owners or whatever on a one-on-one basis. But if you go look at like crn.com or you go look at channelprogram.com or channelpro.com, I don't recognize like 90% of the names on those advertisements. And they're very much enterprise vendors trying to get into the MSP space. And funny enough, you just watch long enough and they'll stop advertising there and you never actually see them get into any of the other spaces, right? Which is mind-boggling to me. Our MSP has 145,000 users, 80% are monthly active. MSP Geek has over 20,000 subscribers on the forums. They have over 15,000 in Slack and Discord. MRU has 6,000 MSPs. All the Facebook groups, combine them together, you have, close to 50,000 MSPs. The audience is there, and none of them know who the hell you are because you're only advertising in one magazine. Like that to me screams, we have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah. If you ran a new enterprise focused process and you expected it to bear fruit after 6 months, you'd be setting yourself up for failure anyways.
Oh, yeah.
Why is the channel any different? Especially given that it's community focused. If you want to make roots, there's the ability for you to go make them immediately, but you can't shortcut that process. There's no shortcutting.
And it's easy. It's really easy to do if you go build the relationships. It doesn't take a whole lot. I'll give the golden rules to every new vendor listening to this that's interested in coming to the space. Go to one of the communities, watch and listen for about a week, then introduce yourself, then get involved in the conversations. Don't sell anything. If you've tried to mention even your company or sell in the first 2 weeks, you already lost. And then once you develop a rapport, see where you can help. And sometimes your company can help, sometimes it can't. It's not hard. It just takes effort.
I found that's where I've gotten the most engagement is I'll go on r/MSP, r/sysadmin, somebody's asking a question. And instead of jumping in and say, like giving, we can do this for you right away. We promise. Well, thumbs up. We'll treat you perfectly. I'll be like, why do you want that in the first place? All the MSPs that I talk to and I work with, like they all want this other thing. You want this. Yeah. Tell me more. And then sometimes you'll watch someone firebomb the thread and just blow up. But other times it's actual genuine discourse of like, I didn't think about that. Or, you know what? I have a set of clients that have this other need and I can't get that through the normal way.
You know what it is? It's the public presentation. You drive by like a sports car dealer. And they have all the beautiful sports cars lined up front, street side, so you can see like how gorgeous it is, whether it's behind glass or whatever. You can see it from the street. They want you to see it from the street. The MSP landscape does not have that veneer. It's a little rougher, a little bit like mountainous terrain. But I promise once you get inside, it's a lot better. And I would argue a lot easier. I've done enterprise sales. I'll take MSP all day, all night. But you got to get past that mountainous terrain. It's getting to the top of the mountain where you see, oh, wow, there's a beautiful valley there. I don't know how far I'm going to take this analogy, but I'm just going to run with it. But it holds true. We have a hard exterior shell. We're like an M&M. So
I'll use a different analogy. We're like a car that has a sleeper build, where from the outside, it just looks like a normal car, nothing special, sometimes even downtrodden and abused. But then you open the hood and it's like 700 horses of pure power. Yes. I don't know if that's the right analogy.
That works. We're like the Doctor Who call box. It's bigger on the inside. So.
Yes, we are like the Doctor Who call box. For folks who want to learn more about you, reach out, get some genuine discourse, learn about MMN, learn about OIT. Where would you suggest they find you?
Hit me up at youtube.com/MSP Media Network, or hit me up on linkedin.com/Ray Orsini, or OIT_Ray, literally everywhere.
Awesome. As always, we will have links to everything Ray just mentioned below, above, sideways, wherever it is in relation to my hands. So you can reach out, find him on Reddit, and make a thread that blasts him into the stratosphere or the depths of hell. You decide. And I'll just sit and eat my popcorn while I watch it happen.
Ask me what PSA to switch to, because we haven't heard that in 30 seconds.
Yes, we'll start the clock now, and we'll have another thread about it in just one more minute. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me, Ray. This has been a blast having you on not only this episode, but all of the other ones we've been chatting about. I appreciate you taking the time to tell me your opinion, although I know you enjoy it too, so I don't feel too bad.
I do. I have a blast with you every time, dude. I appreciate you and the entire Fin team. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to us ramble on far longer than any reasonable human should have. But we appreciate that you're still here. And we will see you on the next episode. Bye.
Take care.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Gone Phishing. If you want to find out more about high-quality security awareness training campaigns, how to launch them in ways that actually engage employees to change their habits, then check us out, Fin Security, at finsec.io. That's PHINSEC.io, or click all of the wonderful links in our show notes. Thanks for fishing with me today, and we'll see you next time.